I'm Jen Crownover, Comal County Commissioner for Precinct 4, and you're listening to Texas County Voice, a podcast for all 254 counties. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello, and welcome to Texas County Voice. I'm Jody Seaborn with the Texas Association of Counties. In this episode, we bring you a conversation recorded at TAC's 2024 Legislative Conference. Yoakum County Commissioner and TAC Board President Tim Addison and Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis echo the conference theme Stronger Together as they explore the unique and shared challenges facing urban and rural counties and the power of collaboration. Stay tuned for this insightful fireside chat moderated by TAC Legislative Services Director Caroline Love.
So the next part of our discussion, we are going to have a fireside chat with two county commissioners from two very separate parts of the state. The first commissioner that we will have is our very own board president, Tim Addison from Yoakum County. He is now serving his third term as commissioner of Yoakum County Precinct 4. In addition to being the TAC board president, he's also president of the Yoakum County Farm Bureau and was formerly VP of Wells Fargo in Denver City. So welcome up, Tim. Thank you. And then we also have a very special guest, Harris County Precinct 1 Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Born and raised in Houston, he's an attorney and has a great passion for public service. He started out his public service career on the Houston City Council. In 1990, he was elected to the Texas Senate, where I had the pleasure of working with him when I was in the state agency world. And then in 2016, he was elected as Harris County Commissioner. So thank you both once again for joining us today. So I am going to start with Commissioner Ellis. So you served the 13th district in the Texas Senate from 1990 through 2017 and have been the Harris County Commissioner now since 2017. How have you seen your engagement with the Texas legislature change since leaving the Senate? And what do you know now from serving in both capacities that have influenced that change?
Well, first I want to say thank you for inviting me. I'm just so proud of what this organization has done over the years. Look, I feel like after having been on the Houston City Council and then going to the state Senate and now as a county commissioner, it's like I have died and gone to heaven. First of all, I'm glad I don't have to dress like a senator anymore. I don't have to do the coat and tie, but look, each position I've been in, I've enjoyed it. And it was an honor and privilege to have done it now for 40 years. And, my colleagues remind me all the time, if I keep putting my name on the ballot, one of these years I'm going to lose, but it'll be okay. You'll be surprised at how nice I'm going to be. What I have learned in this position, I don't think I quite appreciated when I was in the Texas Senate, was just how important county government is. Counties don't have ordinance making power. First committee I chaired was the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, which as you know is very important. Most of the issues that are important to counties in particular, cities somewhat, particularly counties on the Senate side, goes to intergovernmental affairs. And usually someone would come up and ask for additional ordinance making power. And I don't think that I fully appreciated just how difficult the job is in county government when I was in the Senate. And, I don't know that after having been there 27 years, the one thing I have learned is every session is different. I have learned LBJ's O-line, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent issues. So when I was in Austin, I would learn not to hold grudges from one session to the next. And in fact, back when they had a stronger 2/3 rule, I would not hold grudges from one bill to the next. And sometimes I'd have to remind myself, people have life and death issues that people are voting on in Austin. And then sometimes we could get so upset, so petty, and we're angry because somebody wouldn't give us a vote to bring our bill up. And so that has been a challenge. And even now in this job, even when I chat with some of my former colleagues who've been there for a good while, and even the new ones, I always stress, try not to take it personal. And the last point, after 40 years, I try even harder to put myself in somebody else's shoes. Rarely do I lose my cool, but I usually try to put myself in someone else's shoes and try to figure out the things that make them act the way they do, or take the position that they take. And then I try to think strategically about how to get to them through people that maybe can get their ear easier than I can, and how to do it in such a way, if I can, and not go public with it to anger them. So I hope that helps.
That's great advice. Thank you. Tim, so would you have any recommendations to counties on successful ways to engage their legislators, both locally and at the Capitol?
Well, first of all, just to share a stage with this man here, 27 years in the Senate. He is a commissioner in a county that has a population bigger than a lot of states. And to think that, 24 different state legislative districts go into Harris County, 8 senatorial districts into Harris County. And I'm thinking about right now, why am I here with Commissioner Ellis? You think about the demographics of this state, the second most populous state in the United States. Half of that population resides in 6 counties. The CUC is made up of 34 counties, if I believe, and 85% of the population reside in those, leaving 220 counties with only 15% of the population. So perhaps out in the audience, there's a lot more of you out there that are in my position. But when you think about when we approach the legislature, we kind of have that David and Goliath syndrome, that we feel like we don't have the pull that someone like Commissioner Ellis would have. I live in the senatorial district 31. Kevin Sparks is our senator. We share that senator with 44 other counties, 45 in his senatorial district. A good friend of mine, Charles Perry, he has 41 in his senatorial district. So our side of the state, the west side of the state, all the way up against New Mexico, is a little bit different world than Harris County. But yet we all come together hoping to push county government where we can come out with a better outcome for our constituents. I look down, I see Lisa Johnson there at the second table. We share our legislator, Ken King. Ken King has to do a lot of traveling. That's from one side of the panhandle all the way up to the north end, all the way to the very edge where the Texas makes the corner and heads back toward El Paso. And so he would travel to different towns. Sometimes more than 50 people would show up at a lot of the town hall meetings that he would attend. And we would sit more on a one-to-one basis with our legislator and be able to explain our problems. But there was only an expectation that I had 2 people that were going to sit down and felt inclined that they should listen to me because I was their constituent. And everyone else that I needed to go talk to, I had to go find somebody to get me in that door. And that's where I would reflect back upon our judges, commissioner conferences, our associations, our regionals, because I know someone in every one of those counties. And I know that probably they were just like me, that they know their legislator, they know their senator. And collectively, we can have our voice here. And sitting here with Commissioner Ellis, my new best friend, who has a lot of contacts in the legislature, makes it even better. We're stronger together, and I truly believe that.
If I might, I do want to say, to make the point that we are stronger together. Some issues that come up, I have found that I'm better off saying that your county is interested in it instead of Harris County. And I know some of you all are better off saying, that's Harris County, that's not us. But look, when I was in Austin, I always found my greatest successes when I found someone who didn't look like me, who's not in the same party that I'm in. Only two people look like me anyway. In the Senate, there's still like the only two African Americans. But one rural member in particular, Bill Ratliff, he made me chair of the Senate Finance Committee, which is a pretty big deal. And one of my former colleagues said when he writes this book, the best chapters will be behind the hell. Rodney Ellis ended up becoming chair of the Finance Committee with 16 Republicans and 15 Democrats. But I could learn so much from him. And I remember him telling me, I'm picking you because you'll smile, you'll be polite, you try to get along with people. I know you're a bit more progressive than most members of the body, but you'll have the good sense to know the budget ought to pass unanimously, because I'm telling you that's what I want, and I am appointing you. And we did that. But so really, we are stronger when we work together. It's a diverse state. The place has changed a lot since I left. My last session was 2015, 2017, January, I became a commissioner. But it is a place we can still work. And so many of those big issues that are so important to counties, it is so important that whether you're rural or urban, if you're upstate or downstate, that we work together on. And I think Matt Chase, I know, is here, the head of NACO, has found that to be the best way to get things done on the federal level as well, if we are in it together, and be sensitive. Sometimes on our side in the urban area, we have to be willing to give a bit because you all as an ally in the smaller counties, and you all have to be willing to give a bit. Absolutely. Because you need us in the urban counties.
Thank you.
Great, and thank you both for those remarks. And what's really great about this discussion we're having as well is you're from an area with over 1.1 million people, whereas Tim is from an area with about 7,500 people in your entire county. So it's a very
8,500, don't sell us short.
Okay.
And we're 4.8 million. I just have 1.1 in my precinct.
Well, Tim, is there anything that you would like legislators to understand from that rural county perspective as it relates to the upcoming session?
Absolutely. One of the problems we've identified through the Judges Commissioners Association is an ambulance desert. There's an expectation that when you have an accident, when you have a traumatic event, that someone is going to be there to pick you up and to take you to medical care. And with the increased costs of both personnel, capital cost of ambulances, that's not necessarily so. In rural areas, most of the time, the EMS service is run by cities. And especially a small town, they no longer have the ability to service the EMS system. So counties have been getting to step in and take over. Many counties have voted in emergency services districts, still taxes the same pot of money. But as we see these increased costs, we find out that many places have had to step back and no longer offer EMS. And so, in something that minutes count, that seconds count, you might be 30, 45 minutes away from being able to get to medical attention. And that's just not acceptable. There's an expectation from all of us that when something happens, that we're going to, in the greatest nation of the world, be able to get to a hospital. So what we're seeking is funding from the legislature to help offset some of the costs. In rural Texas, we abide by the same regs that they do in Houston, the other urban areas, but yet we don't always have the ability to get those personnel, to always have a paramedic in the back of the ambulance. It's very expensive. It's very hard sometimes to find those in small communities. So we're also seeking for some type of exemption or variances from regulations. But capital costs, that's one that has just went through the roof. 8 years ago, I helped the community of Plains buy an ambulance. It was less than $200,000. State of the art, had everything on it. You got to know that even though there may not be a lot of calls in Plains, Texas, the overhead is still always there. And Now I've helped them purchase a new ambulance, same state of the art, same chassis, almost the same motor, all the new equipment that now has to be put in the back of that box and has a price tag of $450,000. And so this is a real need. It's not just a rural issue. Of course, we're the ones that are out there that would also, would provide EMS for our citizens. But you think about the people that are on the highway that have expectation of when I'm traveling to go see my friends, family, traveling to the next ball game or just on vacation, that if I'm involved in a traumatic situation, someone's going to pick me up. So that makes it a problem for all of us. I think we're getting a lot of traction on this. We're networking. We're talking to our legislators. It's something that they all can get involved in. It's not controversial. It's just competing for dollars. And so this is a place that we can also look for stakeholders to join us in this, to get the information out. Texas Farm Bureau. As a farmer, I've been involved with Texas Farm Bureau for a long time. They have a presence in every county in the state. And so in this particular issue, we can partner with them because they also want those same services to be provided in those rural areas. Now, we also have to be very careful. When you partner with the stakeholder, sometimes there's an expectation that you're going to partner on other issues that we may not see eye to eye on. But we do have opportunities that we can partner and we can bring in more influence and have more voices out there to achieve a good outcome.
Thank you. And to that point, the Texas Department of Transportation has had their End the Street campaign for many years. We have not gone one day without a death on Texas roads since November 7th of 2001. So almost 23 years of people dying on the roads every day. And just over 50% of those are rural fatalities. So it is a very important issue. Along those same lines, Rodney, would you have any urban issues that you feel legislators need to really understand?
I want to start off by saying I ran into Joe Strauss earlier today, and I wrote down some numbers he gave me. Whether you're urban or rural, there are 32 new House members in the Texas House. There'll be 2 new Senate members, 3 to 5 possible flips, swing districts. I don't know which way, but there'll be some new members to get to know. For us in the urban area, climate change is an existential threat to us, not just Houston or Harris County. Obviously, with a freeze, with Harvey, with a derecho, and then a Category 1 storm to put that kind of damage on us. My colleague, Commissioner Briones, is here. She knows. For us, we decided to adopt a climate action plan. It's going to take us a little bit more time to put it together, but we're going to do what we can on our level. We did pass a $2.5 billion bond issue. It's not nearly enough. We're going to go to our state partners and make the case. If they can give urban counties any relief on that revenue cap, or we're going to go and say, go to our partners with the state and ask for solutions if we're not given the latitude to do it. Very little sales tax goes to us, whether you're urban or rural. Slightly more goes to cities than the counties, but the bulk of it goes to the state. The most difficult way to ask people for money is the property tax. Our nation was built on the perception that if you're a property owner, that's a special privilege. For a long time, only people who were property owners could vote. And the ones who didn't figure, well, one day we'll get property. It'll be okay. Obviously, other categories were left out as well, but that's such a challenge. We're going to go to the voters under the law that's in place and ask if they'll give us permission to spend more money on maintaining the flooding infrastructure we put in place. Why spend the money? Why invest to build it if you cannot maintain it? But we'll ask. It may fall on deaf ears, but it's going to be a big challenge for us. Look, the idea, and we'll be back, of not being able to have people represent you, outside companies, to lobby for you, as the state does in Washington, D.C., and in other areas. But if we can't do that, it's just big. There's nothing unseemly about that when When I started in the state Senate, Bill Hobby was going out. He was there for a minute, and then Bullock came in. He had a great line. You remember this about the lobbyists. He said, "Paid friends are the best friends you can get. You can depend on them." And sometimes you say, "I can depend on them more than I can depend on you senators." But look, it's a big problem to make that case and who can spend the time getting to know people during the interim. Oh, but that'll be a big challenge, whether it's urban or rural. But to me, I just think the notion of climate change, we ought to coalesce on the idea if you need money for health care. Why are the only two big states still refusing to take that money? Our money, Florida and Texas. Just take the money from the Affordable Care Act. That's our money. And I'm hoping when the dust settles after the election, maybe we can agree on pushing legislation and just say, let the voters decide. Let the voters decide to take it if they want it. Put it on the ballot and let them decide. I'm not calling for initiative and referendum. You just do it on that specific issue because all of the polling data says it's important. I can give you a host of them, not holding state inmates as long as we have to hold them, even if thanks to state legislation, there's a cap and they have to reimburse us. But even if you got to wait for 45 days, well, you're holding them. We're spending that money. Biggest mental health facility in all counties, if you have a jail, biggest mental health facility is the county jail, whether you're urban or rural. And those are just so many issues. You want me to give you the list, you'll start crying if I run through all of them. But the most important thing we want our friends in the legislature to do is sine die as soon as possible. Just do no harm. I love them. Just do no harm.
Everybody who's here definitely loves to be engaged with the legislative process. So
we all love it. It's one of the most interesting experiences, whether you're on the inside or the outside. It's a thrill every time. It's an honor every time I walk in the building. Even when they're running me out, it's still a thrill.
And one of my favorite things to do is visit other state capitals, and I will tell you by far this one is the most beautiful for sure. So it is a privilege. So as we kind of wrap up this segment, I was curious, do you all have any parting words of wisdom on ways that we can find to partner? You've given a lot of great advice already, but any other thoughts that you might want to share with the group?
Don't just go and talk to the people you agree with. You know, it happens with all of us. You know, when the folks come and chew me out. People are chewing me out and I'm on their side. And we do. That's a human instinct. Don't just go talk to the senator or the representative that you agree with. And look for something, no matter how insignificant it may be, that you can partner with that person on. And it may lead to an opportunity to have a broader discussion on something more substantive down the road. Just don't give up on people. It's the best advice I can give you.
I think to wrap this up, you have to understand your differences, but they don't have to separate you. And then you look for common ground. If you look at county government from Harris County all the way down to Yoakum County, it's made up pretty much the same. We have the same offices. We have the same issues. We have the same problem with mental health in our jails. We have the same issues, just not on the same scale. But we usually have about the same appraised value that we're trying to tax to pay for it. So our issues are the same, just maybe not on the same scale. But as we mentioned before, we're much stronger together than we are apart. And so let's find that common ground. We all know this legislative session is probably going to be one of the most difficult we've had in recent years. It's already lining up to be. Let's not draw an extra target on our back. Let's concentrate on the things that are important to us, the things that are essential to us. And once again, let's try to find the best outcome we can for our people.
Thank you. Thank you both so much.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Texas County Voice, a podcast from the Texas Association of Counties about the people, issues, and all things important to Texans and Texas counties. To learn more about Texas counties and the Texas Association of Counties, visit county.org.